Hi, my name is George Miller, and I have been in the beauty profession for like over 40 years, okay? And I was a success when I was young. A lot of other stylists, my friends, peers, they didn't get it. They didn't understand what I'm about to tell you now. We are valuable and important people. But if you don't think you're valuable and important, then other people won't think that. And so I've learned over my years in the profession that when you develop this, and it's called self-respect, and a lot of people say, well, what is self-respect? Self-respect is actually you liking yourself without anybody else telling you whatever. Because somebody else is always going to have a whatever. But if you understand that what you do is important, then other people will understand it's important. I'm going to read to you something. Does anybody here know who John Steinbeck was?
Yes.
Okay, who was he?
Man and Mice.
What? Yes, he wrote a Man and Mice, Mice and Men, whatever. But I like to call him the rock star of the literary world. He wrote of Mice and Men, he wrote Grapes of Wrath. He was also given the Nobel Peace Prize, the Nobel Laureate Prize for literature. But I did not know what he wrote about the hairdresser until a few years ago. And I've been in this profession, like I said, for over 40 years. So let me read to you. The hairdresser, and this is, that's okay. It's my considered opinion that the hairdresser is the most influential person in any community. When the public goes to a hairdresser, something happens to them. They feel safe. They relax. The hairdresser knows what their skin is like under the makeup. They know their age. They don't have to keep up any type of pretense. People tell a hairdresser things they wouldn't dare confess to a priest, and they are open about matters they try to conceal from a doctor. When people place their secret lives in the hairdresser's hands, and I want you all to hear this, the hairdresser gains an authority few other people attain. I have heard hairdressers quoted with complete conviction on art, literature, politics, economics, childcare, and morals. I tell you that a clever, thoughtful, ambitious hairdresser wields a power beyond the comprehension of most people. John Steinbeck. That's not what the general public thinks of us. And I only learned this information a few years ago. You're getting it now when you're just starting out. I've lived what John Steinbeck wrote about. Back in the day, in the 70s and 80s and into the 90s, I was a successful hairdresser. I owned up to 4 salons. And I had the sheriff of Orange County. He was one of my clients. I had lots of millionaires, lots of doctors, lots of people. But what I learned is they only respected me because I respected myself. If you show up later, you don't care. Nobody else will care about you. And this isn't them against us. It's us understanding who we are. And I'm not making this stuff up. I mean, John Steinbeck, this guy was like the rock star of the literary world. He won the Nobel Peace Prize. He was at the top of his game. He wrote literature that's been on and on and on. But again, I did not know what I just read you until a few years ago. And I feel so happy to give it to you now because we need you. We need people. I've worked in this industry for a long time, and people seem to think that they're not good enough. And I'm not trying to dish on anybody, because I don't care where you came from. My father worked at United States Steel down in Torrance, and my mother, she hates it, she's passed on now, but she was from Hungary, but my grandmother came over. She came over on the boat. And so the sisters did their hair, and I didn't have a clue that people will pay any amount of money for hair. It's never about the money. You believe that? Quiet. I understand if you don't, because that's what the world's going to tell you. But most of the world doesn't know what's going on. What's going on, it's about quality. Let me tell you how I think about it. I'm a Ferrari, you know, like a car, I'm a Ferrari. Money is gas. That's all it is to me. It lets me go. If you think about the money, it's nothing. Think about how good you are. And what you do, you touch people. Let me tell you a story. A number of years ago, I was going up here to another school in Studio City. And I know you're all young, but back in the day, Starbucks coffee, you had to wait in a line. Does anybody remember that? Not really? No? Okay, I'm old, all right. But no, you had to wait in a line to get a cup of coffee. So here I was in line. I made my way up all the way almost inside, or I was inside and just, you know, not too far from getting my coffee. And a lady came in, and she just went ballistic. She goes, she opened the door and she goes, what are all you people doing here? You know, why? I gotta get to work, I gotta do this. And so she was real animated and she was kind of funny. And so and she lasted about a minute or so, but then after she left, everybody in line kind of got a little, I don't know, we kind of got closer. So the guy behind me, he says, does it bother you to wait in line for a cup of coffee here? And I've learned that if I don't want to communicate with somebody, I just make it short. So I said, no. But he asked this question, and I want you to think about this, because this is a big thing. Why? He said, why? And I told him. I said, well, my father told me to be a success in life, you do or buy what you love. So when I started waiting in these lines in Starbucks years ago, I went and I bought stock in Starbucks company. So when I was waiting in line, it's not happening anymore, cha-ching, I'm making money. So the guy says, that's really cool. What do you do? And I answered it this way because I do a lot of things in the beauty industry. I work in the beauty industry, I told him. And then he did this. This word, have you ever seen this? He assumed. It makes that out of you and me. Okay? He assumed. He said, oh, you, me, and bartenders, we all kind of do the same thing. And that's why I corrected him. I didn't ask him what he did at first. And I said, well, I did. I said, what do you do? And he said, I'm a psychiatrist. And I said, excuse me, but we don't all do the same thing. If I was your bartender and I'm serving you a drink, but then I start and I come over and I touch on you, that's not real. If I'm your psychiatrist and you're laying down or you're sitting in a chair and I'm doing my psychiatry, but I come over and start touching on you, that's not only not real, that's illegal. Did you know that? That your psychiatrist, psychologist, they can't even touch you. Can I touch you? I told him, my work doesn't start until I touch somebody. He says, you're so cool. I want you to come up to Santa Barbara and teach my psychiatrist this stuff. I said, you weren't listening. I'm not a bartender. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm a hairstylist. He wrote down his name and number and wanted me to go up there, and I haven't been up there. Listen, everything I've learned, I learned behind the chair. This profession is a profession. But we come to school with an attitude or whatever. Why? Because we don't value who we are. When you learn that you are somebody important, it's not because George Miller says so. It's because you, individually, feel so. And if you choose to think that way and feel that way, you choose to have a life. I mean, you know, my story, I had a Mercedes, I had a mobile home on the beach. Anybody know San Clemente down south? All right, number 56, I had a mobile home right there. I had a place in Palm Springs, driving a Mercedes, and this profession gave me all that. Where a lot of other stylists, they come in and they go, oh man, it's a bum day, man, whatever, you know? I got that, and I know the world can be that way. But you have an opportunity. When we're behind the chair, it's our world. She comes into me, she is my world. You ever hear fake it till you make it? I don't like that. You know why? I don't fake stuff, but I do hair. I change stuff around. So I create it until I make it. When you start thinking that you're valuable and important, the world will think you're valuable and important. But if you think you're nothing or nobody, then that's what the world's going to see you as. And this is so real. But what I love, in a year or less, you get a license to let you touch people. Value it. We're all different. We all have different ways of seeing things. Let me give you this, cost and value, okay? Cost is what you pay for something. Value is how much you appreciate something. This is a picture of a round nickel. You can't see it, but this nickel sold for $3.7 million. A round piece of metal, $3.7 million. Why? Because somebody valued it so much, they spent that much money. Now here's a little bit better deal. Here's a penny. It's only $1.38. A penny, a little round piece of metal, somebody's willing to pay $1.38 for. Now, you like comic books? Superman sold, original issue, paper like this for $1 million. You like doggies? This one's only $1.5 million. How many do you want? Okay? Don't think about money, think about quality. That's what I'm trying to help you with. Okay. Next, Kate Grossland. This is old school. Back in 2010, Ted Gibson charged her $7,000 to do her hair extensions. Don't you dare think that's too much. Don't put your brain into somebody else's pocketbook. Value. Okay. Now, that's old school. Here's new school. Rihanna spends $22,500 a week on her hair, which equates out to $1 million a year. I know you're thinking about money because it's hard not to, because that's the way you've been trained. But the truth is, it's not about the money. People that are success do what they do best and let everybody else think it's about the money. Okay, remember that comic book? See, quality goes up and cost is just whatever. If I say, I'm going to do your hair a little cheaper than somebody else or whatever, nobody comes back to that because they don't care. They just care about how much it costs. They don't value the service. That same comic book, it's hard to see, but it resold for $1.5 million. But let's not stop there. It resold again for $2.16 million. So if you thought that comic book was too much at $1 million, you're wrong. Quality goes up. Quality goes up and cost nobody cares about. All right? For 10 years, between 1975 and 1985, I've raised my prices every year. Nobody cared. I had so many people coming to me, they waited weeks to get in with me, and I'm no better than anybody else. And this isn't about ego, it's about understanding self-respect. Whoa, that same comic book resold again. $3.2 million. If you value yourself, you'll go up. But if you don't value who you are, whatever, you'll be doing $10, $20, $30 haircuts the rest of your life. And it's not because you're not good. It's not because you're not valuable. It's because you don't understand that you are and what we do is important and valuable. And if you can get that in your brain, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to shop? What places do you want to eat at? You're in control of your world. And all you have to do is the person in your chair. Are you liking this?
Yeah.
Good. Well, because we need you. There are so many salons out there, quality salons that need people, but they don't need you to come and go, oh yeah, well man, that's too tough or whatever, because that's your others. When you understand that if she came in for a bang trim, what's going through most stylists' head? Oh, I just trim her bangs, trim them up, get some money, go out and have my cig or get on my sale or whatever. She's my world. I'm thinking about it. So I'm going to say, well, what if we made those bangs real short and choppy? Maybe she doesn't like it. It doesn't matter. I care about it. And she feels it. So she doesn't like that. So I say, let's maybe do big barrel roll bangs. Maybe. Or let's sweep to the right, sweep to the left. It doesn't matter what you do. It matters that you care about what you do. And that to me, when somebody comes in for bang trim, is an opportunity to change the whole way her face looks. But most people don't think that way. Most stylists just think, oh, I'm just going to do this bang trim, make my 10, 20 the bucks or whatever, stick in my pocket and go on. You're not valuing who you are. You're just thinking about the cost of what you do. It's the way you think about yourself and who you are that determines where you're going to go. Okay? Now, this is hard to see, but this is a $1,000 haircut. And without getting into it, this haircut is a trim. But the stylist, she's got 5 salons, she's very busy, and so she gives 3 hours of time to each person that comes in. She makes up a special formula from, she values them. The clients value the experience, and her time is worth that much money. Just like Ted Gibson, I said, why did you charge $7,000 for Kate's hair? Well, I had to talk to her in this, and it took hours and whatever, and it averaged out. At that time, I think he's charging more now, but he was charging $350 an hour for his time. So he took 20 hours or whatever it was, because it was, you know, back and forth stuff. See, most people don't get that. They just think about the money. But I've had an opportunity. I've had all these wealthy, excessively wealthy people sit in my chair. They got the same problems we do. Their kids don't do what they want. Whatever, their wife doesn't understand their mistress, you know what I mean? Okay, don't judge it. Here's something I'm going to give you. Let's go here. You've all heard the word discrimination?
Yeah.
Okay, what does it mean? I know everybody gets quiet when I do this. It's a little, you know, whoa, wait a minute, discrimination. All right, but let's just look at it. Let's try to understand it rather than judge it, okay? To discriminate means divide, to separate, to judge. All right? Now, have you ever heard the word discernment?
Yeah.
What does it mean? Who said that?
Okay. Yeah. It means like you're making an educated, more educated, not assumption, but like Yeah.
This is what most, I don't think too many of you in here have heard that word discernment, because I've talked to doctors, lawyers, and other people, and they don't even understand, and they have an idea, but I break it down. I've learned communications is understanding what we know, not just knowing what we know. You have to understand what you know. So discernment means to look, to see, to understand. Let me give you an example. What if I told you all right now, I only take a bath once every 6 months? You just discriminated against me. You, in your mind, that guy's a dirty old guy, you know? Right? Yeah. And I understand that. Unfortunately, that's the way that most schools teach. You got to get the answer right. There's always more than one answer. But if you would have just asked that one little thing, this is the way you discern something. Why? Such a little word. Why? What if you would have thought in your brain, rather than going on automatic pilot and just judging me or discriminating against me, if you would have said why? And if somebody would have asked me why, I would have said, the reason is I only bathe once every 6 months is because I have a rare skin condition. And if I bathe more often, I would literally die. Do you feel different? That one little word. But we go on automatic because we've been trained. I'm not trying to put down the school system, but to understand it. I say I don't want to be rude, but I need to be real. They've said if you don't get the answer right, you're wrong. That's not real. There's always more than one answer, but here's what you got to do. You got to have respect. You got to understand that people aren't going to understand you. You got to step back and think why. Why are you into this right now? Or why aren't you into what I'm saying right now? Why? But you don't discriminate on yourself, which is what most people do, and that's why we feel bad about ourselves. Discern why you feel the way you do. Take the time. Put out the energy. Because you know what comes back? A life you want. I mean, how do you think I felt when I had doctors, major players in business, lawyers, whoever, the sheriff of Orange County, his wife Dee Dee, and the family, and all these people, they waited for me. They valued the time they spent with me. And I am no better than anybody else. I care. That's it. I care that when I come and do a class, I care how well I give you the class. How you take it and what you do is none of my business, really. That's your business. But my business is I want to give you information that will help focus you on things so that you can have all the stuff you want. And when I say stuff, I just don't mean material things. When you know that somebody values your time and your energy, and you value yourself, and you don't discriminate on yourself, then another world opens up. Life gets just a little easier. Yeah, stuff still happens. We still got challenges. There's always things going on. But it's just not as big a deal. And you know what I love about self-respect? I can't really give it to you. I can explain it to you. I can kind of guide you toward it. But the only way you're going to get self-respect is by you. Nobody can give it to you. But here's the big news. Nobody else can take it away from you. Let's say she says, George, I think you're the ugliest guy that ever walked on this planet. What? Yeah. Well, okay. So she's got a right to her opinion. I don't feel that. I don't think that. I'm not the best, but I'm okay. It's how we feel about ourselves. But if I do, if I say, well, why do you think that? And I defend myself, and I say, gee, I'm not that bad. I don't have self-respect. I'm making what she says more important about me than what I think about myself. Do you guys get that? You know why you get it? Because this isn't hard to understand. It's just that maybe you've never been exposed to this information before. I told you you're valuable and important people, and I'm not kidding. I'm not making this up, and this isn't a game or a joke. This isn't entertainment. This is education. Well, I tell you, I didn't have self-respect when I was younger. This is going to sound like a sales pitch, but I have created this curriculum. It's called Sheer Intelligence, Excellence Through Education, and it's nice and skinny. But it addresses the things that I'm going over with you today. How do you develop it? I have exercises, visualizations, things that you say to yourself. Because this self-respect, it's only you. And we're all different. But if you put yourself down, most of us, I feel, lack self-respect because we've let the outside world choose what we are. Don't think from the outside in, think from the inside out. You can get self-respect as soon as you want to. But you have to understand don't listen to me, listen to yourself. And if what I say makes sense to you, then say, oh, okay, maybe I want to try this. And if it doesn't, then if it doesn't, fine. But know why it doesn't. Because if you don't understand why, where are you going? A lot of us, we let other people, sometimes I have a friend of mine, I'm not going to mention his name, we're back in school. His dad used to throw him up against the walls. I mean, how do you have self-respect when your father does that? John Lennon wrote a song, they hit us at home and hate us at school. But the point is, value who you are no matter what anybody else says or does. This has to come from inside you, and if you've had challenges, if you've had hard things going on in your life, I respect that. My daddy worked at United States Steel, and he worked there a long time to support me and Mom, and I respected him. I did have the opportunity of having a father that loved me and a mother that loved me, and I know a lot of us don't. Don't let that environment dictate where you're going to be and go. Because it has nothing to do with anything. A lot of us, or most of us, think we're a sum total of what we've experienced. No, you are a sum total of what you want to do right now, in the moment. What I say is, what I teach is simple but not easy. It's simple to understand what I'm saying, but it's not easy because you got habits built up. You got ways of doing things that may be counterproductive to you being your best self. And again, this is never about being better than anybody. This is about each individual wanting to be their best. Okay? And when you start to think that way, when you start to develop that way, I say I don't change things. I can't change you, but I can hopefully help you develop. And if you start developing yourself and you choose to use the information I'm talking about, the world changes. Because you don't have, your brain doesn't have the room to hate and to understand at the same time. If you're hating something, man, I just hate that, boy, that's bad, that's wrong, there's no room in your brain to understand it. And I got a bout of the truth, which is we are trained in school. We are trained. If we don't get the answers just the way they want them, that something's wrong with us. That's just wrong information. It doesn't take time to understand what I'm saying. It takes timing. It takes you, and any moment you're in, to decide that, yeah, gee, I want to be a success. I want to come and go as I want. I want to drive the car I want. I want to wear the clothes I want. I want to eat where I want to eat. And all that in this profession is so there. I say don't be part of the herd, be part of the whole. Part of the herd is you just go along with everybody else because whatever. No. Be part of the whole by being yourself. Respectfully. Because if you don't have that respect thing going on, then you're just in an oxymoron situation. I got here, let me just see. Once a day, I'm going to give you an exercise. Now, I did a class for 5 years at some other schools in the Inland Empire, and I had an opportunity to see students that did it and they didn't do it. Now, I never made it mandatory for them to do this exercise because I don't want to tell you what to do. I want to explain to you what you can do, and then hopefully you'll do it because that's going to benefit you. It's called Once a Day. It's in my program, but here it is. And do it once a day. Find somebody that you'd like to see in your chair. Anywhere, at Del Taco, at the gas station, or somebody, but you approach them and say, excuse me, my name's George, I go to school over here at West Valley, I'm a student, and I'd like to ask you a couple questions. Now I'm going to give you the negative first. Let's say this person, she's got challenges, something's going on in her life, something's not quite right, so she comes back and she says, get out of my face, what are you doing coming up to me? Don't let her actions dictate the way you are. Have that self-respect. And I mean it. I am so sorry. I can see I bothered you, and that was not my intention. Thank you very much. I hope you have a better day. And mean that. And I do. Okay? Now that would be the negative. And that also will help reinforce and teach you not to react to what other people do. To become yourself. But let's say she has the time. Okay, so I ask her, I'm George, I go to school. Can I ask you 2 questions? And she says yes. The first question is, what do you like about the person? I'll role play with you. I'll do it all. Don't worry about it. What do you like about the person that you go? I'll do it. But what do you like about the person that you go to do their hair? And what do you like about the salon? It's a 2-part question. Now here's where you listen, and I'm going to give her part. Okay. Well, I go to George, and he's really a cool hairstylist. He says if I cut my hair so that it accentuated my eyes, it would bring out features in my face. And he's talking about, he says, I like your color, but if it's a little lighter, a little darker, it's going to complement your skin color. He really cares about, I really like George because of that. Oh, what do I like about his salon? He has peach iced tea. They have peach iced tea at his salon, and he knows I really like that peach iced tea, so he's makes sure that I have a glass of it on his station when I get there, and I think that is so cool. Now, you bonded with that person. That person has got to tell you something positive, okay? Now, let me give you the power. This is going to empower you more than George, the person doing her hair. Fine, I really appreciate you telling me that, but what I really want to understand is, what don't you like about George? What don't you like about going to that salon, okay? This is going to empower you more than the person doing her hair, because she's about to tell you something she can't tell George. Well, George is, he's really a nice guy and everything, but he's got a cell phone, and I'm paying him like $60, $80, or $100 for a haircut, and that cell phone goes off, and he goes, hey, yeah, I'll be right back with you. Oh yeah, we're going to go to the movies, and we're going to do this, we're going to do a hair show, we're going to do all this cool stuff, yeah. Well, I'm paying him the money, and he's walking away from me on the phone while I'm just kind of sitting around his chair. I can't say I like that. I really don't like that about the experience. And one other thing, there's no way I could ever tell George this. Whew, he's got bad breath. He stinko. How could she ever tell me that and then come back and sit in my chair? This empowers you. Now, I did this with students, and they went out and did this exercise. They come back. You know what happens? They'll go, even if they're freshmen, if they just started, they'll go, that person wanted me to do their hair. Why? Because they don't see you as a student in beauty school. They see you as somebody who cared about what was something that was important to them. See, let me explain something to you. Why do people generally come to a beauty college to get their hair done? Cost, money, right? It's less expensive, am I right? All right, that's the basic reason. There could be others, but that's the basic reason. If you go out and do that exercise, these people don't see you like that. They see you as a human being that cares about them, and they know that you're in school. They'll come in because of you. Major difference. Difference between night and day. But first, you got to care about who you are. And you got to want to do this. I can't teach anybody who doesn't want to learn. I love teaching. Because when I was behind the chair, if I did her hair, and I did it, so it really, made her look good, I feel good. Don't you feel good when you do a good head of hair? I mean, it bonds you. It creates what John Steinbeck talked about. It's a relationship that's like no other. We wield a power beyond the comprehension of most people. I read this to a guy, his name's Dwight Miller. I respect that man so much. He's been the head of Matrix. He's done so much more in the industry than I have. He's magazine covers and all this other stuff. He hadn't heard it either until a few years ago. See, you're the now generation of hairdressers. What you do counts. Or it doesn't. Or whatever. I just do some hair and blah, 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 blah. And I'm not trying to change you. I'm trying to explain to you the reality that there are so many people wanting to find somebody who cares about their hair. Now, I have been misquoted. Somebody said that George doesn't care about technical, how we do hair. That's so wrong. But I do know this. I was a general manager of 5 salons in San Diego County. I had a staff of 150. And here's what I saw. Some stylists, they're making over $100,000 a year. Same salon, same education, same everything. Other stylists are making $20,000 or $30,000 a year, maybe. Why? It's because of what I'm teaching you right now. They valued who they were. I had one, out of 150, there was one, and if I could have cloned her, I would have opened up salons all over the world. She was, in my mind, perfect. Here's what she did. Oh, how much money did she make? $6,000 to $10,000 a week. Yeah. And it isn't about the money, it's about the quality. Now, we had a normal plan there where if you stayed with us for 1 year, we'd give you a week's vacation paid, average out your pay over a year and give you that. Or if you stayed 2 years, we'd give you 2 weeks paid vacation, 3 years, 3 weeks paid, and that was it. As long as you stay with us, the 3 weeks is the maximum. We broke the rules for her. I mean, she's bringing in $6,000 to $10,000 a week, okay? And so we gave her a week off every 6 weeks. Every 6 weeks she'd take a week off, and that'd be 7 days, plus the weekend it'd be 9 days. She'd go to Tokyo, she'd go to Santa Barbara, she'd go someplace back, and then she'd come back and share it with her clients. Let me talk about retail, and no manufacturer is going to like what I'm about to say. This person was the top stylist out of 150. And she never put down the assistant, she never got upset, she just did her work, she was always prepped, she was just there, she was with her people. But I'm going to talk about retail. She was our highest paid retail person. She sold $2,000 to $3,000 worth of retail. Now, like I said, manufacturers don't exactly like me for what I'm saying right now. Because to me, the product doesn't really matter. It's us that matter. But anyway, she sold $3,000 to $4,000, $2,000 to $3,000, $3,000, let's say, a week in products. We gave her 10%. That's $300. She'd make more than that in a day on tips. So, with all the love in my heart for the manufacturers, because I like to play with stuff, and that's the stuff we play with. But it's not about the manufacturer, it's about you. As a matter of fact, I have it, I don't know exactly where it is, but for years I said, what brand of paint did Picasso, you know who Picasso was? Famous painter,
yeah.
you know, abstract guy. Do you know what brand of paint he used? Nobody ever knows. And then I read, scientists found out what kind of paint Picasso used. I don't have that piece of information here, but it's true. You can Google it. Regular house paint. Regular house paint. I cut hair with pinking shears a few times. Pinking shears are what you do in sewing. It doesn't matter. It matters if you like the stuff you're using and use the stuff you like. The manufacturer is going to say, whoa, wait a minute, get off, you know, what's this guy talking about? But I got the truth. And all I'm here is to help. I say teaching is never about knowing more, it's about sharing more. The more that I can give to you, the more that comes back to me. I just love to help. And if you're in my chair, that's what I do. You're in my class, that's what I want to do. But I understand. You guys got lives. You got other stuff going on. Maybe you're just not up for it today. Maybe you're just not interested in it. I respect that. But I just ask you, then how are you going to be a success and pay for the bills and pay for the kids' stuff and do what you want to do? And if you have a way to do it and it's got nothing to do with what I'm talking about, go for it. Because I'm not against you doing anything your way. I don't have set rules. All I have is a lot of information. And I know it works because I've lived it. How do you think I felt when the Sheriff of Orange County had to wait for me? Good. I know. But I didn't let my ego, well, sometimes I did. And I want to break something down to you. Let's talk money for a minute, because money is money. It goes in the tank, and we all use money. Is $100,000 a year enough for you guys? Live on $100,000 a year? Some of you are going to say no, and I got that. That's fine, but we can all eat pretty good on $100,000 a year. Am I right? Yeah. Okay, so $100,000 a year. Now let me ask you a question. Is $50 too much for a haircut?
No.
Some people may say yes, but no, it isn't. But let me tell you why, because I studied this stuff. Back in 2003, Lucky Magazine did a national survey. The lowest haircuts are the low and the highest the high. They averaged out. In 2003, $65 was the national average. So let's roll that down to $50. Now, another question. Can you have 1,000 people in your clientele? And when I say in your clientele, that means that person comes back on average every 4.5 weeks. Can you have 1,000 people in your clientele? Some people say yes. I've had salon owners that have owned salons for over 20 years. They said yes. You can't. You've got to ask why. Because you don't have the time. If you had 1,000 people coming back to you every 4.5 weeks on average, you would have to do 5 people 8 hours a day. In other words, I would have to work on 5 heads at the same time 8 hours a day. You'd be having to do 40 people a day. You can't do that. Now, you can work on 8 people a day, right? 5 days a week. Okay, let's do the math. Now, oh, and if you do the math and they come back every 4.5 weeks, all you ever have to know is 200 people. That's a big party, and it's your party. 200 people is all you ever have to know to be fully booked. See? If you didn't know that, then you wouldn't think that. You'd think you could have everybody. I used to think you could do everybody, but you can't. You can have 200 people. So, $50 a person, 8 people a day. 5 times 8 is $400 a day. Times 5 days a week is $2,000 a week. Times 50 weeks in a year, 2 weeks off for bad, I mean good behavior, whatever. That's $100,000. Okay? Now, some people, and I deal with some, this is a fairly upscale area, but if I'm downtown LA, you know, people, no, that's too much money. $25 a haircut puts $50,000 into your pocket before retail and before tips. Let's go down to $12.50. If you got 200 people coming back to you on a regular basis and you're only charging $12.50, that's 25 grand, which ain't bad. It ain't good, but it ain't bad. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you remember I told you you're valuable and important people? I'm not kidding. It's just that you got to know this. And I can't make you know it. I wish I could take an injection and just give you, 40 years of information. Can't do that. But you can. As soon as you start caring, as soon as you start valuing who you are, and get out of your other head where, oh, she's this way and she's that way, and oh my God, and the world's terrible, and this is all going on. What's up with that? That's just you going along with the herd, because that's what the majority's doing. And by the way, I'm going to tell you the truth, that's all I got. 80% of the stylists aren't doing what I'm talking about. 20% of us are. We're making all the money we want, we're doing what we want. But I want all of us to do it. My hope is that you guys really start to understand what I'm saying. Because it's not just words, it's empowerment. But you have to take the action. I got another phrase, success through action. You can listen to me till you died. And if you took no action on what I'm saying, it wouldn't work. Now, I want to show you something. This is a magazine. Now, I don't spell well. I really don't. Look, this is the way I write. I'm an internationally published author. I am. I'll show you in a second. But this is the way I write. Don't judge it. Evaluate it. You looked at it and you saw what it looked like, but let's hear what it says. Words can manipulate thoughts. That causes confusion. Someone calls us stupid or dumb, and we mix up confusion with being stupid. We get afraid. We think we're stupid. We're only confused. Don't get confused. Make sure you understand what you know. Never, ever, ever think you're stupid. Maybe you don't want to learn something. Okay, that's not stupidity. That's not wanting to learn it. Doctors know stuff I don't know. I respect them, and I want doctors to understand what they know so they can treat me right. You see the difference? What I call this, structure and substance. Structure is what's on the outside. Substance is what I'm teaching, and that's on the inside. So, now that you've seen that, you remember, do you guys know who Nick Arroyo is? He was kind of big back in the day, or a few years ago.
Yes.
But this is Nick, and I enjoy the ride. And I got to interview people. I am an internationally published author, and I worked for this magazine for about 3 years. Here, can you see my name?
Yes.
Okay. Because I'm still impressed with it, because, you see the way I write. But I had an opportunity to front out all these great hairdressers. And it all boils down to what I'm sharing with you now. It's simple. It's really simple. But it's not easy, because you got the world telling you other stuff. You have to be the biggest voice in your head. You have to decide that you're valuable and important. And if somebody else says, who do you think you are? You know what? I say, well, I know who I am. Why are you asking me that question? Because they don't know who they are. And they feel valueless. So they'll try to pull you down. But if you got self-respect, don't even bother. It's okay. All right, you don't like me. I'm ugly. Cool. Don't make what somebody else thinks about you more important than what you think about yourself. I like your smile. Because hopefully, if you get what I'm saying and you start to take action by thinking a little different than you've been thinking, you're going to do anything you want. You're going to go anywhere you want. You're going to, it's going to be your world, not somebody else's world. I got some other information I'd like to share with you. I got this off the internet the other day. It says you can't fake personality, passion, and purpose. And this is from Richard Branson, Virgin Airlines, you know that guy? He says the first thing they look for when they're hiring somebody is personality. He says you can't train people to have a personality. They must be friendly and considerate. Smiling people working together. So that's what they look for first. Also, we place more importance on experience rather than qualifications. He says the smartest thing I ever did in the early days was to hire my weaknesses. Let me explain this to you. I'm a cut and colorist. I don't do updos well. I don't do makeup. I don't do nails. I don't do facials. Okay? But I'm a real good cut and colorist. Anybody in here like to do updos? I want to know you because I give you business. At prom time, I was scared because all my clients, oh, George, you can do me. And I didn't want to do it. So I hired people, I had people around me that did work that I didn't do. Okay? Same thing that he's talking about. He says, I can attribute a lot of my success in business to hiring people who had the skills I didn't. He goes on to say, that helped us become successful and grow. Here's the other thing he says. Purpose is no longer a buzzword. It's a must-have. And purpose comes from that question, why? I have a purpose here today. It's to help you understand how wonderful this profession is and how each and every one of us in our own way can develop ourselves to have all the stuff, all the time, all the vacations, money, whatever. But we have to understand who we are first. It goes on to say, okay, so he says that and that purpose. Now, I wrote something to him, and this is what I said. I'm a success skills educator to the beauty profession. I explained to each individual that in our profession, each and every one of us is an individual brand, and we are. Nobody's going to do hair just like you. Own that. Nobody's going to do hair just like you. We are an individual brand. My goal is to help each individual develop self-respect. When people learn how to respect themselves, the world truly benefits. I value the information from Virgin. It shows how important the individual is. The beauty profession truly has to deal with all professions in our chair. And I said, all the best, George Miller. I don't want to go to work for Virgin. I don't want to be a psychiatrist. I don't want to be a bartender. I love doing hair. And for the last 15 years, where my big passion is teaching. And I get to share with you guys, the ones that are just coming in, what it really is all about, if you want to be a success. Because you sure as the heck can just kind of skate through school, oh yeah, whatever, deal with it, yeah, and you'll get a license. I've seen you sit around in chairs doing nothing. When I was the general manager of those 5 salon and day spas, they were all in malls, and I'd have stylists that weren't making it. They're just sitting there kind of slumped over, yeah, you know what I mean. And they say, well, there's nobody to cut their hair. I'm looking out the front door. We're in a mall. Even when it's closed, people work in a mall. There's always people there. What they didn't have is an understanding of who they were. They didn't value who they were. They just thought they're $10 or $20 for a haircut or $50 for a haircut. The numbers don't matter to me. The care matters. And if you start caring about yourself, and hey, you know, I changed a lot of habits. I'll be honest with you, when I was young, real young, I used to cuss all the time. Profanity was cool. Why? Because it got reactions from people. And back then, I didn't care if they were positive or negative. I liked the reaction. So I'd cuss all the time. It don't work.